The massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers opened with a soft hiss. Ambassador Dae-ho Kim walked through them, his dark suit a sharp contrast to the flowing robes and glittering armor worn by the alien delegates around him. Behind him came three other humans: Hyunwoo Park, a former military officer whose calm eyes missed nothing; So-young Lee, their trade specialist who could calculate profit margins faster than most computers; and Jin-A Yoon, their youngest diplomat who spoke 12 alien languages fluently. The chamber itself was built to intimidate. The ceiling stretched up into darkness, making even the tallest species look small. Hundreds of seats formed a perfect circle, each one designed for different alien body types. At the center sat a raised platform where the council leaders held court. Today, like most days for the past 50 years, the leaders looked down on the human delegation with barely hidden contempt. Dae-ho took his assigned seat in the outer ring, where the minor species were placed. The irony was not lost on him. Earth had a population of 8 billion people spread across dozens of colonies. They produced more food than any 3 other species combined. Their trade ships carried goods to every corner of known space. Yet here they sat with species that could barely manage interplanetary flight. "Order, order," called Council Leader Thexazara, her 4 arms gesturing dramatically. She was Vorthak, a race that looked like walking reptiles covered in golden scales. The Vorthak had ruled the Council for 200 years through a combination of military might and political manipulation. We gather today to discuss territorial assignments in the Outer Rim sectors. Dae-ho straightened in his chair. This was what they had come for. Human colonies needed room to grow. Earth was getting crowded, and their agricultural worlds could support billions more people if they had access to the mineral-rich systems in the Outer Rim. "The Great Vorthak Empire requests assignment of 12 new systems," announced General Zethmore, his voice booming through the chamber's speakers. A holographic display showed the systems in question, scattered across some of the most valuable real estate in the galaxy. "Our expansion serves the greater good of galactic stability." Murmurs of agreement rose from the inner circle of seats. The Kelthian Federation's representative, a tall, thin being called Quillen, nodded his elongated head. "The Kelthians support our Vorthak friends. Their military presence keeps trade routes safe." Dae-ho waited for his turn to speak. The human request was modest by comparison. 3 systems, carefully chosen for their agricultural potential and strategic value for defending existing human colonies. They had prepared detailed reports showing how human farming techniques could turn marginal worlds into food producers for the entire sector. "The Terran Federation requests permission to speak," Dae-ho said when the formal presentations ended. Thexazara looked annoyed. "Very well. Make it brief, human." Dae-ho stood, his presentation ready. "The Terran Federation requests assignment of 3 systems in the Outer Rim. We have prepared comprehensive development plans that would benefit not just humanity, but provide food security for 3 systems?" Thexazara's laughter was like glass breaking. "Humans, you already control more territory than your species deserves. Perhaps you should focus on managing what you have before reaching for more." "With respect," Council Leader Hyunwoo said, his military training keeping, his voice steady. "Human colonies are among the most productive in the galaxy. Our agricultural output feeds 40% of the non-aligned worlds, and profits handsomely from it," sneered Representative Klex of the Mordian Republic. The Mordians were known for their greed almost as much as their purple slug-like appearance. Perhaps humans should be grateful for the opportunities they have already been given. So-young stood up, her datapad in hand. "If I may present the economic analysis?" "That will not be necessary," Thexazara interrupted. "The Council has already decided this matter. The Vorthak Empire's request is approved. The human request is denied." Silence fell over the chamber. Dae-ho felt his jaw clench, but he kept his expression neutral. 50 years of this. 50 years of being treated like children asking for scraps from the adults' table. Furthermore, Thexazara continued, clearly enjoying the moment, the Council has decided that human expansion should be limited to ensure galactic stability. No new territorial assignments will be considered for the Terran Federation for the next decade. That did it. Not just denied, but banned from even asking again. Deho felt something cold settle in his chest. Around him, alien delegates whispered among themselves, some laughing quietly at humanity's humiliation. I see, Deho said quietly. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of species they had helped, traded with, even saved from disasters. None would meet his gaze now. They all knew this was wrong, but none would speak against the Vorthak and risk losing their own privileges. He thought about the reports sitting in his briefcase, plans for hospitals that could serve multiple species, agricultural techniques that could end hunger on a dozen worlds, trade agreements that would boost prosperity across the sector, all dismissed without even a proper hearing. Is there anything else? Thexazara asked, her tone making it clear she hoped not. Deho closed his briefcase with a soft click. The sound seemed to echo in the vast chamber. He stood slowly, and his three companions rose with him. The Terran Federation withdraws from these proceedings, he said clearly. The whispers stopped. Even Thexazara looked surprised. I beg your pardon, she said. You heard me correctly, Deho replied. He turned to look directly at the council leader. We came here in good faith, prepared to contribute to galactic prosperity and stability. We have been told we are not welcome as equals. Therefore, we choose not to participate at all. Hyunwoo straightened his shoulders, every inch the soldier he had once been. So Young closed her datapad with a decisive snap. Jin-A gathered her translation equipment, her young face set with determination. Humans, Thexazara called, her voice rising. You cannot simply leave. There are procedures, protocols. But the humans were already walking toward the doors. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet. Delegates craned their necks to watch, unsure if they were witnessing a political miscalculation or something more significant. They will be back, General Zethmore said loudly. Humans always come crawling back when they need something. Laughter rippled through the chamber, though it sounded forced. Several species that depended on human trade routes looked worried. Deho stopped at the chamber doors and turned back one last time. Perhaps, he said, his voice carrying clearly in the acoustically perfect chamber, it is time the galaxy learned to manage without humans entirely. The doors closed behind them with that same soft hiss, but somehow it sounded final this time. In the corridor outside, Jin-A whispered, Are we really doing this? Yes, Deho said simply. Alert Earth immediately. Tell them to begin implementing Protocol 7. So Young raised an eyebrow. Full economic withdrawal? Everything, Hyunwoo confirmed. Trade, diplomacy, military cooperation. If they want to treat us like children, they can learn to live without their babysitters. As they walked toward their ship, none of them looked back. Behind them, the greatest political body in the galaxy continued its session, unaware that everything had just changed forever. Captain Jin-Soo Choi stared at the empty screen in his ship's communication center. For 3 months now, every attempt to contact human colonies had resulted in the same thing. Silence. Not even an automated response. Try the new Sol colony. Again, he ordered his communications officer. Jin-Soo was Kelthian, part of the Federation that prided itself on diplomacy and trade. His tall, thin frame was suited for his species' high-gravity homeworld, but right now he felt the weight of growing worry. No response, Captain, came the reply. The communication arrays are active, but no one is answering. Jin-Soo walked to the viewport of his diplomatic vessel. Outside, stars twinkled in the darkness, but something felt wrong about the emptiness. Human ships used to be everywhere out here. Cargo vessels, passenger transports, survey ships exploring. New systems. Now there was nothing. 3 months ago, everyone had laughed when the humans walked out of the council session. General Zethmore had been particularly amused, making jokes about human tantrums for weeks afterward. Council leader Thexazara had publicly stated that humanity would return within days, begging for forgiveness. They had been wrong. "Captain," his navigation officer called out, "we're approaching the Terra Nova system. Should I take us to the main colony?" "Do it," Jinsu replied. Terra Nova was one of humanity's oldest colonies, home to nearly 50 million people. It was also a major trading hub that connected dozens of star systems. If anyone would respond, it would be them. As they entered the system, Jinsu expected to see the usual traffic. Hundreds of ships coming and going, space stations buzzing with activity, mining operations in the asteroid belt. Instead, he found something that made his blood run cold. Everything was there, but it was empty. The orbital stations hung in space like ghost ships, their lights still functioning but no ships docked at their ports. The asteroid mining platforms were still operational, their automated systems continuing to extract minerals, but no human workers were visible. Even the planetary defense grid was active, its weapons tracking their ship as they approached, but no one hailed them or demanded identification. "This is impossible," whispered his science officer, a young Kelthian named Hyun Su. "Where did 50 million people go?" Jin Su had no answer. He ordered his ship to scan the planet's surface. The cities were still there, lights still shining, but heat scans showed no large populations. A few scattered signatures here and there, but nothing like the bustling metropolis that Terra Nova should be. "Captain, we're receiving an automated message," the communications officer announced. "Put it through," a mechanical voice filled the bridge. "This is Terra Nova Defense Control. Your vessel has been identified as the Kelthian diplomatic ship. Morning Star, you are cleared for orbit but not authorized for planetary landing. Please state your business and maintain current position." Jinsu activated his communicator. "This is Captain Jinsu Choi of the Celthian Federation. I request permission to speak with Governor Minho Park or any human authority." The response was immediate and cold. "No human authorities are currently available for communication. Please state your business with Terra Nova system. We're concerned about the welfare of human civilians. There appear to be no population centers active on the planet. All human civilians are safe and accounted for. Your concern is noted but unnecessary. Please state your official business or depart the system within 6 hours. Jinsu tried for another hour to get answers, but the automated systems would only repeat the same responses. Frustrated and worried, he ordered his ship to leave and try another colony. The story was the same everywhere. New Busan, completely automated but empty. Of people. Gangnam Station still processing cargo but with no crew visible. The agricultural world of Jeju 7, where massive farms continued producing food under robot supervision, while the human population seemed to have vanished. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Mi-Ran Yoon sat in the Situation Room deep beneath Seoul. Around the table sat her most trusted advisors, including Defense Minister Taemin Seo and Chief Scientist Yoon-ji Nam. "How are the evacuations proceeding?" Mi-Ran asked. "Ahead of schedule," replied Taemin. "The last civilian transports from the outer colonies arrived yesterday. All 47 billion humans are now in secure locations." Mi-Ran nodded. The plan had taken decades to develop, but they had been ready when the moment came. Hidden bases in unexplored systems, self-sufficient habitats in deep space, underground cities on worlds the aliens had never bothered to survey properly. Humanity had learned long ago not to put all their eggs in one basket. "And our military assets?" she asked. "Fully deployed to Phase 2 positions," Taemin confirmed. "All ships and personnel are operating under communication blackout protocols. The aliens think our fleets have disappeared, but we're watching everything they do." Chief Scientist Yun-ji opened a thick folder. The manufacturing programs are exceeding expectations. Without the need to trade with alien species, we've been able to focus entirely on our own technological development. The new shipyards are producing vessels at 3 times our previous rate. Good, Miran said. And their reactions? Intelligence Director Kyung-Ho Won activated a holographic display showing alien space. Panic is starting to set in. The Celthians have sent diplomatic missions to every human colony they know about. The Vorthak are trying to take control of abandoned human facilities but finding them completely locked down. Several species are reporting economic problems. Miran wasn't surprised. Humans had always been traders and innovators. Over the past century, they had quietly become essential to galactic commerce in ways most aliens never realized. Human shipping companies carried goods between systems that didn't trust each other enough to trade directly. Human agricultural techniques fed billions of aliens who had never learned to farm efficiently. Human manufacturing produced components that other species had become dependent on. The Mordians are having the worst problems, Kyung-Ho continued. 40% of their food imports came from human agricultural worlds. They're starting to experience shortages. Let them, Miran said coldly. They laughed when we were humiliated in the council. Let them remember that laughter while their people go hungry. Back in space, Jinsu was discovering just how bad things were getting. His ship had received emergency messages from 17 different systems, all reporting the same problems. Ships breaking down because they couldn't get human-made replacement parts. Colonies running out of food because human cargo vessels were no longer making deliveries. Space stations going dark because human technicians were no longer maintaining their systems. Captain, Hyun-Soo said quietly, I'm reading some disturbing reports from the core systems. There are rumors of food riots on 3 Mordian worlds. The Zephyrian Collective is reporting complete breakdown of their interstellar communication network. Jinsu felt a chill run down his spine. The Zephyrians were an advanced species, but they had always relied on human-built relay stations to maintain communications across their territory. If those stations were going offline, Sir, we're receiving a priority message from the Celthian Home System, the communications officer announced. Put it through. The face of Minister Jae-won Kim appeared on the screen. She looked tired and worried, not at all like the confident diplomat Jin-Soo remembered. All diplomatic vessels are ordered to return home immediately, she said. The Federation Council is declaring a state of economic emergency. We need to assess our situation and develop contingency plans. The message ended abruptly. Jin-Soo stared at the blank screen, finally understanding the full scope of what was happening. Humanity hadn't just walked out of one meeting. They had walked out of galactic civilization entirely. Set course for home, he ordered quietly. As his ship turned away from human space, Jin-Soo couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy was about to learn a very expensive lesson about taking people for granted. In the darkness between the stars, automated beacons continued broadcasting their simple message to any ship that came too close to human territory. This space is no longer open to foreign vessels. Turn back now. Economic analyst Yeon-Woo Han crouched behind a pile of shipping containers on Mordian Prime's main commercial station. His human appearance was hidden by an advanced holographic disguise that made him look like a Zephyrian trader. Around him, the once bustling trade center was falling apart. Food riot on level 7, crackled a security officer's voice over the comm system, requesting immediate backup. Yeon-Woo adjusted his recording device and continued documenting the collapse. 6 months ago, this station processed more cargo than any other facility in the sector. Now, half the docking bays stood empty, and the ones that were occupied held ships loaded with desperate aliens arguing over scraps. A purple-skinned Mordian merchant stumbled past, clutching a container of grain like it was made of gold. His species had ruled trade in this region for centuries through cunning and greed. Now they were starving because they had never learned to grow their own food efficiently. 15 credits per kilogram, the merchant was shouting into his communicator. That's my final offer. 6 months ago, that same grain would have cost less than 1 credit per kilogram. Yanwu made another note. The inflation was worse than Earth's economists had predicted. Without human agricultural worlds providing cheap, high-quality food, prices had gone completely insane. He moved carefully through the station's corridors, his sensors recording everything. Empty shops where human-made goods used to be sold. Broken equipment that no one knew how to repair because human technicians were gone. Long lines of aliens waiting for basic supplies that might never arrive. In the central plaza, a crowd had gathered around a public information screen. Yanwu joined them, staying toward the back where his disguise would hold up better. The Celthian Federation announced today that 12 more star systems have requested emergency food aid, the news broadcaster was saying. This brings the total number of systems facing critical shortages to 47. Federation officials continue to blame the crisis on temporary supply chain disruptions, but sources close to the government suggest the situation is far worse than publicly admitted. An old Kelthian in the crowd spoke up. My grandson works in the shipping industry. He says human cargo vessels used to handle 60% of all interstellar trade. 60%. How did we not know this? Because we never paid attention, replied another alien, this one from a species Yanwu didn't recognize. Humans were always just there, quietly making everything work. We took them for granted. The news continued with more bad reports. The Zephyrian communication network was now completely down. 3 Vorthak colonies had declared martial law due to civil unrest. The Altarian Republic was considering rationing basic supplies for the first time in their history. But the worst news was still to come. In related developments, multiple sources confirmed that Vorthak military forces attempted to seize control of abandoned human facilities in the Kepler 438 system yesterday. The operation ended in disaster when the facilities self-destructed, destroying not only the installations but the entire asteroid they were built on. Vorthak Command has not responded to requests for comment. Yanwu smiled grimly. He had helped design those self-destruct systems years ago. Every human facility in known space had them, programmed to activate if anyone tried to force entry. The aliens wanted human technology. They could have smoking craters instead. The crowd was getting restless. Arguments broke out as different species blamed each other for the crisis. Yanwu decided it was time to leave before things got violent. He made his way to a secure communication booth and activated his hidden transmitter. Within seconds, he was connected to Admiral Sujin Quan aboard the hidden human fleet base in the Andromeda Relay. Report, came the Admiral's crisp voice. The collapse is accelerating faster than projected, Yanwu said quietly. Food riots are spreading to core worlds. The Mordian government is considering declaring bankruptcy. Even the Vorthak Empire is struggling to maintain order in their outer territories. And the Galactic Council? In emergency session for the 3rd time this month. Council leader Thexazara is trying to hold everything together, but she's fighting. A losing battle. Several minor species have already pulled out of trade agreements. There's talk of forming new alliances that don't include the major powers. Admiral Quan was quiet for a moment. Through the secure connection, Yanwu could hear the background noise of a functioning military base. Ships launching, crews training, the hum of advanced technology that the galaxy had never seen. Any attempts to locate our new positions? She asked. None successful. A few Kelthian scout ships have been nosing around the outer systems. But our cloaking technology is holding. As far as they know, 47 billion humans just vanished into thin air. Good. Continue monitoring and report any significant developments. Quan out. The connection ended, leaving Yanwu alone in the booth. Outside, he could hear more shouting as another argument turned violent. The once mighty galactic civilization was tearing itself apart, and they still had no idea where humanity had gone. Meanwhile, in the Vorthak Empire's military headquarters on Vorth Prime, General Zethmore was facing the worst briefing of his career. His intelligence officers stood around a holographic display showing human space, but instead of the familiar blue markers indicating active colonies, everything was red. "Explain to me again how an entire species just disappears," he growled at his chief analyst, a nervous Vorthak named Kextal. "We believe they initiated some kind of evacuation protocol," Kextal replied, his voice shaking slightly. "All human civilians appear to have been relocated to unknown locations. Their military assets have also vanished. 47 billion. People don't just vanish!" Zethmore slammed his fist on the table. "They have to be somewhere!" "Our scouts have searched every system in a 100-light-year radius," another officer reported. "We've found traces of recent human activity in 17 uninhabited systems. But by the time our ships arrive, there's nothing there but empty space and sensor ghosts." Zethmore studied the display with growing frustration. The Vorthak Empire had always prided itself on military intelligence. They had spies in every major government, sensors monitoring all space lanes, databases tracking every significant ship movement. Yet somehow humanity had pulled off the largest disappearing act in galactic history. "What about their technology?" he asked. "The facilities we tried to capture?" The room went quiet. The disaster at Kepler 438 had cost them an entire assault fleet and made the Empire look weak in front of the galaxy. "We've attempted to access 17 different human installations," Kextal admitted. "All of them self-destructed before our forces could gain entry. The humans appear to have programmed their facilities to destroy themselves rather than let us have them." "And our economic situation?" That was the question everyone had been dreading. The Vorthak Empire's economy, like everyone else's, had become deeply intertwined with human trade and manufacturing. Without human cargo ships, supply lines were breaking down. Without human agricultural imports, food prices were rising. Without human-made components, their military production was slowing. "Bad and getting worse," admitted Economic Minister Thelvar. "Our manufacturing capacity is down 30% because we can't get critical components. Several outer colonies are reporting shortages of basic supplies. If this continues, we may face internal rebellions." Zethmore turned away from the display, his mind racing. The mighty Vorthak Empire, reduced to begging for scraps like a minor species. It was humiliating. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," he ordered finally. "Tell them we need to find the humans and bring them back. Whatever it takes." But as his officers hurried to carry out his orders, Zethmore couldn't shake the feeling that it might already be too late. The galaxy had built its prosperity on human labor and ingenuity, and now they were learning what happened when that foundation was suddenly removed. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity was watching their former neighbors struggle with problems they had created for themselves. The question was no longer whether the aliens would come begging for humanity's return. The question was what price humanity would demand when they did. Captain Jinsu Choi gripped the arms of his command chair as another explosion shook his ship. Through the viewport, he could see the sleek black vessels of the Skreath Horde tearing through his defensive formation like wolves among sheep. "Shields down to 30%, his weapons officer reported. "The Harmony is venting atmosphere on decks 7 through 9. Jinsu cursed under his breath. 6 months ago, the Skreath had been contained in the far reaches of unclaimed space, held back by a combination of human patrol fleets and careful diplomacy. Now, with the humans gone, the nomadic warriors had sensed weakness and come hunting. "All ships, fall back to defensive position Beta," he ordered into his communicator. "Try to buy the evacuation transports more time." The Skreath were unlike any other species in the galaxy. They lived their entire lives on massive war fleets, moving from system to system, taking what they needed and leaving destruction behind. For over a century, they had been kept in check by the threat of human intervention. Human ships were tough, their crews clever and their commanders willing to fight dirty when necessary. But the humans were gone now. "Captain, "We're receiving a transmission from the lead Screeth vessel," his communications officer announced. "Put it through." The screen flickered to life, showing the scarred face of a Screeth war leader. His species looked like walking nightmares, with black chitinous skin, multiple eyes, and teeth like razor blades. "Kelthian weakling," the war leader hissed in broken galactic standard. "Your protectors have abandoned you. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick." "This is Captain Jinsu Choi of the Kelthian Federation," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "You are violating the Galactic Peace Accords. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The Screeth leader's laughter was like grinding metal. "What consequences? Who will enforce your precious accords? The humans who used to patrol these systems. They are gone, and they are not coming back." The transmission ended, and the Screeth ships resumed their attack with renewed fury. Jinsu realized with growing horror that the war leader was right. For decades, the galaxy had relied on human fleets to keep predator species like the Screeth in line. The humans had done it quietly, efficiently, without asking for thanks or recognition. They had simply been there when needed. Now they were not. "Sir, long-range sensors are detecting more Screeth fleets," reported his science officer. "At least 12 more war bands, all heading toward core systems." The implications were staggering. If the Screeth were mobilizing in such numbers, they must be planning attacks across multiple sectors. Without human patrols to stop them, they could raid and pillage with impunity. "Send a priority message to Fleet Command," Jinsu ordered. "Tell them we need reinforcements immediately. And send a general broadcast on all emergency channels." His communications officer looked confused. "What kind of broadcast, sir?" Jinsu closed his eyes for a moment, knowing what he was about to do would end his career. But his ship was dying, his people were in danger, and pride was a luxury he could no longer afford. Broadcast to any human vessels in range. Tell them we need help. Tell them we were wrong." The message went out on all frequencies, carrying across the void to empty space where human ships used to patrol. Jinsu didn't expect an answer. The humans had made their position clear when they withdrew from galactic civilization, but desperation made him try anyway. Light years away, aboard the hidden command ship Determination, Admiral Sujin Quan listened to the Kelthian distress call with a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Around her, the bridge crew maintained their professional composure, but she could see the conflict in their eyes. Many of them had friends among the Kelthian Federation. Some had even served alongside Kelthian officers during joint operations. "Admiral," her tactical officer said quietly, "we have 17 ships in range of that battle. We could intervene." "Our orders are clear," Sujin replied. "Observe only. No engagement with hostile forces." But even as she said it, she felt the weight of those words. On the main display, she could see the tactical situation in the Kelthian system. Captain Jinsu's small fleet was hopelessly outnumbered. Within hours, the Screeth would overrun the last defensive positions and begin their assault on the civilian population below. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from observers throughout the galaxy," her intelligence officer announced. "The Screeth aren't the only ones taking advantage of the situation. The Ravenous Collective has begun raids against Mordian shipping lanes. 3 separate pirate fleets are attacking Zephyrian colonies. The Void Hunters have been spotted near Altarian space." Sujin nodded grimly. It was exactly what Earth's military planners had predicted. For generations, humanity had served as the galaxy's unofficial police force, keeping the predators at bay through strength and vigilance. With that protection removed, every aggressive species in known space was sensing opportunity. "Any word from the Galactic Council?" she asked. "Council leader Thexazara has called for emergency sessions 3 times this week. The latest report suggests they're considering forming a joint military response, but they can't agree on command structure or resource allocation. The Vorthak want to lead, but the other major powers don't trust them. Meanwhile, minor species are demanding protection they can't provide." It was the same old story. When times were good, The major powers competed and schemed against each other. When crisis struck, they couldn't cooperate long enough to solve the problem. Only humanity had been willing to take on the thankless job of maintaining galactic stability, and they had been repaid with condescension and humiliation. "Keep monitoring all channels," Sujin ordered. "I want to know about every Screeth raid, every pirate attack, every system that falls. Document everything." As her crew went back to their duties, Sujin stared at the display showing the dying Kelthian fleet. She thought about Captain Jin Su, a decent officer who had always treated human personnel with respect during joint operations. He didn't deserve to die for the mistakes of his government, but orders were orders. Back in Kelthian space, Jin Su's ship shuddered as another Screeth torpedo found its mark. His shields were down to 15%, and 3 of his escort vessels were already destroyed. The evacuation transports were making good their escape, but his fleet was paying the price. "Any response to our distress call?" he asked desperately. "Nothing, sir. The human territories remain silent." Jin Su slumped in his command chair. He had hoped, despite everything, that humanity's better nature would compel them to help. But why should they? The Kelthian Federation had stood by and watched while humans were humiliated in the Galactic Council. They had benefited from human protection for decades without ever acknowledging the debt. Now the bill was coming due. "All ships, prepare for final engagement," he announced to his remaining vessels. "We may not be able to save ourselves, but we can buy the civilians more time to escape." It was a noble sentiment, but Jin Su knew it was also hopeless. His small fleet couldn't stop the Screeth war bands, and there was no cavalry coming to the rescue. The humans had taught the galaxy a harsh lesson about taking protection for granted. The question was whether anyone would live long enough to learn from it. In the darkness between the stars, automated human sensors continued recording everything, documenting the collapse of galactic civilization, one system at a time. Somewhere in that darkness, 47 billion humans watched their former neighbors reap the consequences of arrogance and ingratitude. The galaxy was burning, and humanity was content to let it burn. The massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers opened with the same soft hiss they always had. But this time, when Ambassador Dae-ho Kim walked through them, everything was different. Council leader Thex Azara looked up from her emergency briefing, her golden scales dulled by months of stress. Around the chamber, representatives from dozens of species huddled in small groups, their voices filled with desperation. The Screeth raids had reached the inner systems. 3 Kelthian colonies had fallen. The Mordian Republic was on the verge of complete economic collapse. "Impossible," Thex Azara whispered as she saw the human delegation enter. You cannot be here." But Dae-ho was very much there, and he was not alone. Behind him walked representatives of dozens of species that the major powers had never bothered to notice. The mineral-rich Korathi, the tech-savvy Yendari, the fierce warrior clans of the Gaxan. Species that had been dismissed as too small, too primitive, or too unimportant to matter in galactic politics. "Council leader," Dae-ho said formally, his voice carrying clearly in the suddenly silent chamber. "I come before you as the representative of the Terran Alliance." "Terran Alliance?" General Zethmore stood up from his seat, his reptilian face showing confusion. "What nonsense is this? There is no such alliance." A new voice answered him. "There is now." Minister Haiwan Jung stepped forward, her diplomatic credentials glowing on the chamber's identification system. Behind her, holographic displays activated around the room, showing star maps that made several delegates gasp in shock. "For the past 8 months," she announced, "the Terran Federation has been forming alliances with 43 different species across known space. Together, we control strategic resources, trade routes, and military assets that span the entire galaxy." The display showed shipping lanes, mining operations, and military bases that the major powers had never known existed. Systems they had written off as worthless were revealed to be rich in rare minerals. Species they had ignored had been developing. Advanced technologies with human assistance. "This is outrageous," Thexazara declared, rising to her full height. "Humans, you have violated dozens of galactic treaties by conducting unauthorized diplomatic activities." "We have violated nothing," Deho replied calmly. "We withdrew from this council and all associated treaties 8 months ago. Since then, we have been free to make whatever alliances we choose." Representative Quillen of the Kelthian Federation looked confused. "But where have you been? Our ships searched everywhere. 47 billion people cannot simply disappear." Admiral Su-Jin Quan materialized on the chamber's main display, broadcasting from the bridge of her command ship. Around her, the gleaming corridors of advanced human vessels were visible, filled with crew members from dozens of different species working side by side. "We did not disappear," she said. "We relocated. Humans have been exploring and colonizing space for over 2 centuries. Did you really think the few dozen systems you knew about were all we had?" The implications hit the chamber like a physical blow. The aliens had assumed they knew the full extent of human territory, but they had been seeing only what humanity wanted them to see. The real human empire was vast, hidden in unexplored regions and disguised installations throughout the galaxy. "Enough games," General Zethmore snarled. "What do you want? Credits? Territory? Name your price and return to your proper place in the galactic order." The chamber fell silent as Deho walked slowly to the center of the room. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of months of planning and the frustration of decades of humiliation. "Our proper place?" he repeated quietly. "General, I think you misunderstand the situation. We are not here to beg for our old seats back. We are here to offer you a choice." The displays changed, showing tactical readouts that made several military representatives go pale. Terran Alliance fleets were positioned near every major system. In the galaxy, their numbers and capabilities far exceeding anything the Council powers could field. "You can join the Terran Alliance as equal partners," Deho continued. "Help us eliminate the Screeth threat and restore stability to the galaxy. Or you can continue pretending that you are still the dominant powers while your civilizations crumble around you." "You dare threaten us?" Thexazara's voice rose to a shriek. "The Vorthak Empire will never bow to inferior species." Minister Haiwan. Jung touched a control on her tablet. Instantly, new displays activated, showing the positions of Terran Alliance fleets around Vorth Prime and every other major Vorthak world. "We are not threatening you," she said matter-of-factly. "We are simply showing you reality. The age of empires bullying smaller species is over. You can adapt to the new galactic order, or you can be left behind by it." From his seat in the outer ring, Representative Klex of the Mordian Republic raised a shaking hand. What are your terms?" Deho turned to face him with something that might have been sympathy. The Mordians had been among the worst in their treatment of humanity, but their people were starving now. Full dissolution of the current galactic council, he said. "In its place, we propose a galactic senate with equal representation for all member species. No more inner and outer circles. No more major and minor powers. Every species gets 1 vote, regardless of military strength or economic influence." The chamber erupted in angry voices as the major powers realized what this meant. Their centuries of dominance would end overnight. "Impossible," General Zethmore roared. "The Vorthak Empire has ruled this galaxy has bullied this galaxy for 200 years. Interrupted a new voice. Captain Jinsu Choi entered the chamber, his uniform bearing the insignia of both the Kelthian Federation and the Terran Alliance. Behind him came other officers from various species, all wearing similar dual insignias. "Captain Choi?" Thexazara looked stunned. "You are supposed to be defending the outer colonies." "The outer colonies are safe," Jinsu replied. "Admiral Kwan's forces arrived 6 hours ago and drove off the Screeth. My people are alive because humans were willing to help. even after everything we did to them. He turned to face the chamber, his voice filled with conviction. I have seen what the Terran Alliance can accomplish. Species working together as equals, sharing technology and resources, protecting each other from threats. It is everything this council claimed to be, but never was. Admiral Su Jin's image reappeared on the main display. The Skreath threat has been neutralized, she announced. 18 war bands have been destroyed or captured. The survivors are retreating to deep space. All Terran Alliance member systems are secure. The news hit the chamber like another shock wave. In less than a day, humanity had accomplished what the major powers had failed to do in months of fighting. How? Whispered Representative Quillen. Cooperation, Jinsu answered simply. Something this council never learned. Thexazara looked around the chamber, seeing her empire crumbling before her eyes. The minor species were already moving toward the human delegation, drawn by the promise of equality they had never been offered before. And if we refuse your terms? She asked desperately. Deho's expression was sad, but resolute. Then you will face the galaxy's problems alone, while the Terran Alliance builds a better civilization without you. For a long moment, the only sound in the chamber was the soft hum of the ventilation system. Then, slowly, Representative Quillen stood up. The Kelthian Federation accepts the proposal for a galactic senate, he said formally. One by one, other species followed. Some eagerly, others reluctantly, but all of them recognizing that the old order was dead and a new one was being born. General Zethmore remained seated until the very end, his pride warring with his pragmatism. Finally, as the vote became overwhelming, he stood as well. The Vorthak Empire accepts, he said through gritted teeth. Thexazara was the last to stand. Her golden scales had lost their luster, and her forearms trembled slightly as she raised them. The motion passes, she announced in a broken voice. The Galactic Council is dissolved. As the chamber filled with voices planning the new Senate, Deho felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to find Captain Jinsu standing beside him. Thank you, the Kelthian officer said quietly, for coming back, for not letting us destroy ourselves. Deho nodded. Humanity learned long ago that our strength comes not from standing alone, but from standing together. Today, the galaxy learns the same lesson. Outside the station's viewports, ships from dozens of species flew in formation, their crews working together to build something the galaxy had never seen before, a truly equal civilization. The age of empires was over. The age of alliance had begun.